Hi everyone, my name is JD and this is my channel Frost and Forest. So today I wanted to do something kind of fun. I want to talk to you and share with you some of the decks that I would consider local decks to me. So when I say local, I mean that basically these decks that I got from Wisconsin creators, because I'm in Wisconsin. And so I thought it would be kind of fun just to highlight some of the decks from the area where I am from. One of the things that I love about tarot is that you can get decks from all over the world, and on TarotTube you can hear from people all over the world, and I think that that connection is really great. But today I just wanted to give some of my Wisconsin decks a little bit of love. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. Let's get started looking at the first deck. So the first deck that I'm going to talk to you about is the only mass market deck that I'm going to be talking about today. I don't know of many mass market decks that are created by Wisconsin creators. So if you know of any, definitely let me know in the comments below. So the first deck that I'm going to talk to you about today is the Folklore Oracle by Mike Bass. So this is a mass market deck that I've had for a little while. I wasn't entirely sure if I wanted to get it or not, because at first glance the art is not necessarily my style. It seems it wasn't something that attracted me to it, but I saw a few videos about this deck and I thought it was kind of cool, and I also ultimately ended up getting it because it was a Wisconsin creator and I wanted to support them. So I was able to pick this up at a local bookstore for me, which is kind of cool, even though it is mass market. And one of the things I'll say in working with this deck is that in general, so the folklore is from all over the world. It's not just sort of North American based, although clearly there is some North American legend there. So that's pretty cool. It also does a pretty good job of kind of in the guidebook talking through the folklore, and then it has sort of like a guiding message, and then it has kind of an affirmation. So it is a very usable guidebook, I would say. My one complaint about this deck is, and I watched some other reviews I watched some other walkthroughs of this deck after I got it to try to see if other people had that issue. And I'm not sure how much you can see here, but like there was a little bit of kind of a printing error. So you can see like the ink is kind of present on the white space. And I looked at some other people's, and it seemed like other folks had that issue with their deck as well. And so, I just kind of was like, I got it already, it's fine. So it hasn't actually been a huge deal to me, but I do think, as I'm talking about this deck, it is a good thing to just kind of let y'all know that like there is kind of like a printing issue with this deck, at least the edition that I have, that has some like ink in this white space. But yeah, in general, I really like this deck. I always like a good Will of the Wisp card, and I like the trees in it as well, and sort of talking about the folklore around different tree species. It also is great. So yeah, this is my first Wisconsin deck. It is the Folklore Oracle. The next deck that I'm going to talk about that is from a Wisconsin creator is actually the deck that kind of gave me the idea to do this video. This was the first deck that I know of that I got from a Wisconsin creator. And so this is the Great Lakes Oracle. This is another one that at first glance, this art style is, not something I would exactly be attracted to. Some of the cards feel a little bit simplistic, although I do definitely love the color. But when I saw this deck, it just felt so much like home. you know, these beautiful birch trees, or not birch, aspen, and, you know, cherries. We have the Door County cherries. And driftwood, this right here is actually a piece of driftwood that I got from Lake Superior. And so, you know, this deck just felt so much like home that I just had to have it. And the morel mushrooms, because it just kind of felt like a deck that was, you know, represents where I am from. And so, yeah, I really loved having this deck. This is a deck that every year we go up north to the North Shore at least once. And I always have to bring this deck along with me when we do that, because, you know, that's just the perfect time to use this deck. But yeah, if you've never seen this deck before, it's really cool. The guidebook is nice. It sort of has like a key phrase that if you want to just do a quick reading, you can just look at that key phrase. And then it has sort of a more in-depth part of the guidebook that talks about, you know, whatever is represented in the card. So like the shipwreck talks about how common, you know, shipwrecks are in the Great Lakes, and just kind of goes into that little history and kind of connects it to the meaning of the card. And then I'll end on the forget-me-nots. And then it has kind of an affirmation at the end. So it is a very usable deck. And actually one of the things that I love to pair this deck with is the Tarot of the Great Outdoors. Whenever we go up north, I always have this deck and the Tarot of the Great Outdoors with me, because they pair beautifully together and they just work beautifully together. So this is my second deck, and this is the Great Lakes Oracle. And I forgot to say that the Great Lakes Oracle is written by Colleen. I'm not going to try to say her last name because I'm going to say it incorrectly, but you can see it here on the screen. And then it's illustrated by Sarah Palmer. So this is a great deck. Sets that I'm going to show you are decks that are created by Brooke Marie Miller. I have also seen Brooke go by B. Miller. And so these are the Figuratively Speaking Tarot and the Figuratively Speaking Mermaid Tarot. So I'm going to show you the Figuratively Speaking Tarot first. This is her first tarot deck, and B also has a ton of expansions for this deck, so that's why this is a giant pile, even though it is just a tarot deck. So this is B's first deck, and then there are expansions that you can get that basically have sort of alternate cards for different things. So like there might be multiple chariots, or there might be multiple hierophants, or things like that. As well as there are oracle cards that you can get that kind of act as expansions for this deck. And so what I ended up doing, because it really kind of stressed me out to like, I wanted some of the expansions because I liked some of the cards in the expansion. Like I like that card right there. You know, I like some of the expansions, and so I wanted them. But I also found it stressful to kind of go through and pick out, you know, a particular card for like what is going to be, for example, the Queen of Wands. That just felt like I was not using a bunch of beautiful cards, and it felt like, you know, just it was stressful for me to have to pick the one. So in the end, what I decided to do is I just got the expansions that I was interested in. These are all on Game Crafter, I should say. And so I got the expansions that I liked, and I just kind of made one giant deck. And so this deck might be a little bit uneven. This deck might have, you know, some cards that have 3 of them and some cards that only have 1 of them. But, you know, it just kind of works for me. And so whenever I use this deck, I just kind of shuffle it and pull whatever cards I get. And there is a possibility that I might have double of some cards. So yeah, I really like this deck. I don't use it all the time, but I do like it. There also can be quite a bit of nudity in the Figuratively Speaking cards. I am actively showing you the cards that don't have nudity in them, so just be aware of that. But yeah, this is a Wisconsin creator, and I love the watercolor. This is one of my favorite Temperance cards, and I really like this High Priestess. I love the color, and I love the representation of different body types, and it just, you know, it's a local Wisconsin creator that I have. And so this is the Figuratively Speaking tarot with a bunch of expansions that I honestly can't tell you which expansions I have anymore and which ones I don't have. I think I'm probably done buying expansions on this because this feels like a pretty hefty deck to me, but I'm happy with what I have, and you all should check out the creators page on Make Playing Cards if you're interested. So that is the first one. So the next one that is created by B is the Figuratively Speaking Mermaid Tarot. So this one is a Kickstarter that I backed, and one of the things that I think is cool about this one compared to the other deck that I just showed you is that you can really tell that B's art style has evolved. And I think that that's awesome because, you know, some of the very earlier cards that you saw in the last one looked a little bit rougher, but I can really see B developing a style here with this newer deck, which I think is awesome. This deck, unlike the last one, is just kind of a true tarot deck. I did pull out, there were some like, you know, you could have a choice between some cards. And in this case, I decided to just keep this one a true tarot deck. So there's only one of each card. But yeah, I think that this is a really cool deck. There were also a few Oracle cards that I have mixed in there that came with the Kickstarter as well. I did look recently, and it seems like there are now expansions that you can get for the Mermaid deck, but I don't think I want to go down that road. I love that sun card, and I love the body representation in this deck. I think it's awesome. So yeah, this is a really fun deck. I will also say, so before this came out as a Kickstarter, I actually got the Major Arcana of this deck as an expansion, and so it was included in that giant pile of decks that I just showed you all for a while. But now that this deck has come out, I don't really like having the same cards in both decks. And so if anyone is interested in just the Major Arcana for this deck, and you're located in the US, I would be happy to just send it to you for shipping because I just want it to go to somebody who wants it. But it does have, so like this has this back, and the first tarot deck has this back. And so the Major Arcana that I'm open to passing along to somebody else would have this same back on it. So yeah, this is, you know, another Wisconsin creator, and I am a really big fan of B's work. I think it's great, and yeah, I just wanted to highlight it. So my next deck that is from a Wisconsin creator is the Craft Felt Tarot. I really like this deck. This deck is so bright and beautiful. You just kind of feel happy when you have this deck or when you pull it out. I think it is so incredible how the creator basically made tarot cards with felt. I mean, I know that that's obvious from the title, but just the amount of work and the detail that it goes into, like putting every little piece, like all of these flowers were little individual pieces that were put together to make that card, I just think is awesome. And so I was really excited when I saw this deck because it just felt so bright. And I just really appreciated the creator and the amount of work and the awesomeness that is this deck. I will say this deck is very Rider-Waite-Smith, which I think is great. It also is, I was really impressed with how easy it is to tell what the card is and also kind of fit the aesthetic of the deck. And so, for example, with the majors that are right here, there are just Roman numerals. But like, it's super easy to tell that this is the Hanged Man card and that this is the Strength card, right? And this is Death. But then with the minors, so this would be the Knight of Swords. And so even though it doesn't say Knight of Swords anywhere on there, it's super easy to tell. This is the Three of Cups. Super easy to tell. I love those pumpkins, by the way. And so this is just another great deck from a Wisconsin creator. And I want to find one of my favorite cards. I do like this Page of Wands, but that's not what I was thinking about. Here's one of my favorite cards in this deck. I don't know, there's just something about this like Six of Cups that feels incredibly nostalgic to me. You know, it's winter, it's hot chocolate, it's after you've maybe gone to a Christmas tree farm, and it feels so nostalgic to me. And I think that that's part of the reason why I like some Wisconsin decks, is it just feels like it fits into my world. And so, yeah, this is such a sweet deck. And yeah, this is the Craft Felt Oracle, and this one is by Gianna Lucci. Sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly, but it's on the screen so you all can see. Yeah, so this is a good deck. Oh, another fun part about this deck is that she created haikus. So let's go to this one of my favorite cards, and I'll show you. Warm memories, familiar faces, seeing through the eyes of a child. Isn't that perfect for the Six of Cups? It's just perfect. So yeah, this is another deck from a Wisconsin creator. Okay, so I've just got a few more decks here. Are you all surprised that I have so many decks from a Wisconsin creator? Because honestly, I kind of am. Okay, so then the next two decks that I'm going to show you are from the same creator. They are the decks from Ray Serafina Baker. These decks were 100% a Rochelle from Amethyst Ascension made me do it. I saw these decks on her channel and I just really loved them. And it's interesting because these are not usually kind of decks that I like. You know, I'm not usually into this sort of like ethereal feeling that some decks have. But I think because, especially with this Oracle deck, this is the Stone and Shadow Oracle. Because it has this like slight darkness, or this sort of like what feels like a cemetery or older building theme, it really works for me. And, you know, again, when I got this deck, I was also a little bit worried about it because the guidebook just has sort of a poem for each of these Oracle cards, and I was worried that that was not going to be enough for me. But I spent a lot of time using this deck for a few weeks because I really wanted to like sort of put it through its paces and see, you know, if it was an issue for me or not. And it turns out it was not an issue at all. It just worked pretty intuitively for me. And so, you know, this one was great. And so this is her Oracle that I'm showing you. I am sorry about the potential barking in the background. I am here by myself and I have a dog who is annoyed that I am making a video instead of hanging out with her. But she can wait. I only have a few more decks to show. So this is also by Ray Serafina Baker, and this is the Rooted Remembrance Tarot. If anyone has this deck, and when I got this, I got an extra guidebook. And so I've been using the extra guidebook instead of the one that actually came in the box. If anyone knows why we were given an extra guidebook, I would love to hear it in the comments below. I'd love it if you could share. But now I'm going to start showing you this tarot deck. I think that this tarot deck is beautiful. Again, like I said, you know, normally ethereal decks like this are not my jam. But I think it's the darkness in these decks, and I think it's the blue shadowiness of them that I really like them. I do, you know, I haven't worked with this deck as much, and so I don't always remember what the majors are, or not the majors, what the minors are, because there have been a lot of name changes in this deck. So all of the suits have been changed to something different, and then all of the court cards have been changed to something different. And so I'm not sure that this deck would be great for a beginner. I mean, maybe if you love it, obviously you do you. But I do think it, you know, even as someone who's been using tarot cards for a while, I have to like take a minute and think about, okay, what suit are we talking about here? I also feel like this deck, and if anyone else has this deck, I'd be curious to hear your opinion about this too. I do feel like this deck kind of goes its own way. Like, it's not exactly the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith meanings of some of these cards. Like, even if you go, so I'm pretty sure that Roots is Pentacles. Like, even if you go in and look at, okay, what is the traditional Five of Pentacles? I do think, you know, it kind of deviates from the Rider-Waite-Smith a little bit. But it is so beautiful. Look at that Seven of Roots card. I just love the sort of rainbow feel and brightness and light with the dark. I just really like it. And so, yeah, I think this is a beautiful deck, and it is another deck from our Wisconsin creator. And then last but not least, and honestly, I put off making this video once I heard that this deck was coming out, because I knew that I wanted to include this deck if I was going to do this video. And so that's partially why I'm doing this video now, is because this deck came in and I have had time to use it and play with it and love it. And so the last deck from a Wisconsin creator is the Oracle of Living Spell. This is a beautiful deck. It is quickly becoming one of my favorite Oracle decks because it has a witchy feel. It has kind of a North Woods feel to me. I mean, just look at the trees in this. These feel, you know, look at all those conifers. This just feels like a North Woods deck. And so, you know, this deck is great. I've talked about it a lot. I did a whole video on it if you want to see it. So I'm not going to talk about it a ton, but just as a recap, this deck is great. It has great keywords if, you know, you want to just use it on its own. It also has a really great guidebook. I find that when I use the guidebook, the meaning of these cards sort of show up in not the most obvious way of thinking about it. So I feel like this deck has a lot of depth to it. And yeah, it's a really great deck. And this one, of course, I should say, is created by Sarah, the Cedar Moon Witch. And so yeah, this deck is beautiful. And so this is my last Wisconsin Creator deck that I'm going to share with you all. It was really fun to do. I really loved that I had the opportunity to sort of highlight some of my local creators. Love how international tarot is, but today I just wanted to give a shout out to my Wisconsin creators. If you enjoyed this video, I would love it if you could like the video below, as well as subscribe to my channel if you think that my content is something you might be into. I talk about tarot cards most of the time, occasionally books, occasionally dogs and cats, but pretty much tarot and oracle and Lenormand and all of the fun divinatory cards out there. Thanks for stopping by.